Joe, tell me the address. Danny said the address, I went.
1 mile down, 17,000 to go. Alright guys, so I'm out here today. I'm going to play around with the Maroon 49. My first goal is to try getting this hood to shut. Ever since the damage, you can see right here, see how this is like pushed up? I think I need to bend it here, kind of push this area back up on both sides. Because when I lower the hood, you'll see how it sticks up? Like it doesn't properly fit into its spot anymore. And you can tell by looking up here, that area is bent up, and look across on this side. See how it's bent in so far? So I think once I do that, it'll hopefully help bring this back down to a more natural position. Kind of seems like it sticks out a little farther now, but I'm not worried about perfect fit. Obviously, it's destroyed already and messed up. I want to try to get it secured so I can start working on the engine and I can secure the hood without having to worry about it having any further damage, maybe flying up again, or obviously you just need a secured hood to be able to drive the car. Yeah, I want to do the aero catch with the locks. Look, they actually spaced it out. They cut out the holes.
Oh, this is USDM stuff.
So what I'm talking about, guys, is looks like they cut the holes. They actually just drilled it out. Tried sliding it over so it did bolt up to the USDM T-bar, but that didn't seem to be working. Okay, so now we can check it. Manny and I took the hood off the car, and you can see like the dents here, which kind of, I think they lift the front of it, and some throughout. We're just going to try to hit certain areas of it, see if we can get it a little bit more, I guess, round again. So the front of it was sticking up a little bit over the bumper and over the headlights. I think in these areas you can tell where it needs to be pushed up. We're just going to kind of see if we can correct a little bit of those, and so it fits just a little bit better on the car. And then when we get those pins installed, it'll make it a lot easier to get those to line up. Well guys, I think that's about as good as I'm going to get it. And like obviously right here, see how it doesn't fit over the headlight, and it's not like this hood is in great shape, so that's probably one of the reasons it's kind of off to the left. But it fits now where I think we'll be able to get the hood pins on there, but we can just secure it like that. And those hood pins, the aero catch, they're nice because if I say I go with a different front end, I can always just remove these. These are removable. They're not stuck on there for good, so I could take these off and put them on a different hood also. And then these have the locks where if we take it somewhere we can of course keep it secured without someone trying to pop the hood. So I think that's where we're going to leave it for now. I'm going to work on getting these hood pins set up somewhere on the radiator support, determine where I want to put these. I think I'm going to leave them this way. I don't really like the side look. I want to do them straight, like forward and back on the hood. I'm mounting the hood pins. I decided to ditch the arrow catch. These are purchased from my 90 Civic Si for my track car. I just had not installed them, and I decided to throw them on here, but I changed my mind because I think it's pointless to put an $80 set of hood pins on this banged up hood. So I went over to eBay, I found a set of generic hood pins. These have the little clip which holds it to the mount, it just slides on and off. Doesn't lock, but I think it'll serve its intended purpose well, just keeping this hood secure. And I only paid $12 for these. It was easier to do this because of tightening the nut on the bottom, and then I had to drill the hole because the JDM headlight like lines up underneath all of this. I can't use this hole because the pin doesn't slide down that far, so I wouldn't be able to have the adjustability and pull this closer to the hood if I need to. And the pins are done. The only thing I had to do after getting it mounted, I grinded off the rest of the pin because this hung really low, and when the headlight slid in, the back of the headlight was actually touching up against this, and I wasn't able to bolt up the headlight. After playing around with the hood the other day, I went ahead and made a little bit of suspension changes. Let me show you those clips here really quickly. Here I'm pulling off all the suspension. I wanted to check the camber kit, obviously, and a generic replica, some sort of eBay kit. I have a Skunk 2 that I got off of that blue Civic hatchback that I bought last September. I'm going to put that on today. I'm also going to push the bushings out, the rubber ones that are in the upper control arm. I'm going to throw in the set of energy suspension. And I'm swapping knuckles right now. This is the knuckle that was on it. They're both DA. This one just has extended wheel studs. It doesn't have new bearings or ball joints yet. I'll get to that, not today, I don't have the parts for it, but I will put it back together. It's relatively easy to get a knuckle removed. Plus I want to change out the tie rod on it also, and I might even do something about the steering rack depending on how it feels. As you've seen in some of my videos before, that press is very essential when trying to change any of these bushings to urethane bushings on your car. I was working on the rear suspension, getting rid of the 88 style control arms, just because the shocks and coilovers I'm going to go with will not be that particular style. And one thing that's kind of a pain in the butt is I had an extra set of LCAs. These are OEM, and I had the bushings, the energy suspension, which we're just going to use on here. And it didn't have the provision, little nut welded on, and the hole for the LCA. So what I did, I just kind of marked it off up against the body of the car where the original LCA is, where the sway bar mounts there. and just drill the hole, because I'll be able to push the bolt through and then put a nut on the opposite side. If that particular bolt isn't long enough, I can just source another one and feed that through. That way I can still retain these LCAs. I'm not trying to spend extra money on another set of lower control arms when these energy suspension bushings still look like they're in very, very good shape. And that mod worked perfect. Just had to use a longer bolt and a nylock. Now I'm using that stock LCA and those energy suspension bushings. Coilovers will be upgraded eventually, but we're not doing that today. So I'm getting a couple check engine lights. If you're not familiar with how to check them, you can check here by counting the blinks on your ECU if it's an OBD0. And I'm getting 2 check engine lights. One is for the knock sensor, which is right below the intake manifold up against the head. Second one is for idle air control valve. I was looking right now, you can't see, it's a little dark in there, but there's not even a knock sensor attached. Idle air control valve, I'm just going to disconnect it and then pull it out and then test it on the battery using a positive and a negative. You can actually hear it open and close, and then I'm going to try cleaning it, see if that kind of solves that issue. I went in and bought a new knock sensor. This one was only about $7 shipped. It has a little bit different plug, which I prefer. This one is squared, and I don't think I have any extra squared plugs. This one is similar to all the other plugs that are on the motors. So I'm going to just go ahead and try the new one out and see if I can fix the knock sensor issue very quickly. The first thing I'm checking is on this connector, the knock sensor is actually B19, which if you look at this, flip it over, look at it from this side, the top left is number 1. So you can just count all the way across. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 5, 7, 9, 11. So it's the very last one here. Doesn't look like there's anything connected to it. They have something going to B20, which is I don't even know what B20 is. It shouldn't be something that's messed with, I believe. Maybe they thought that was B19 and plugged it in. I'm going to follow these wires. Looks like they created this little harness and it goes into the engine bay. I'm going to see if I can figure out where that goes. But they do have B5 tapped, which is the oil pressure switch. That's correct for the VTEC solenoid. And it doesn't look like they added anything else. There's a handful of other little wires running around. This one is really annoying. It goes to this other side over here and it connects to the fuse box. And when I pull it out, the fuel pump doesn't get power, so I'm gonna have to figure that out. I'm not worried about that right now. The car still runs. Let's just see if we can tackle this knock sensor. After doing a little bit of digging around, removed a crap load of electrical tape. A little bit of a mess in here. I found that one of the wires that was coming from the ECU, this one went straight to the IACV, so obviously it has the incorrect connector to it, one wire. Should be a 2-wire connection, and it should be part of the original harness. I don't know if it's down there. I just wanted to see what all these wires were. Figured out that the VTEC solenoid and pressure switch, they're wired up correctly. I followed the 2 leads leading into the ECU. There was no issue with that. So the knock sensor looks like it just needs to be wired up, and then I need to figure out where the IACV goes. And then, of course, clean up some of these wiring, determine what's going on with the fuel pump and then why it has power wires already hooked up to the battery. Same with the fan. The fan is hardwired, and this wire goes somewhere into the cabin as well. So I'm going to try to figure that out. I'm just going to see if I can get this IACV and knock sensor knocked out first. Okay, the knock sensor's finished up. Went in and wired it to B19 where it belongs. think I'm going to remove these connectors that they have, which kind of splice into the original wire. Just going to repin it with new connectors. I always have extra ECU plugs, that way I can just pull pins out and then solder those up to a new wire. I think I'm going to do it for pressure switch and the VTEC solenoid, just so I have cleaner wires and eliminate some of the connections that they have, because both of these have a little butt connector in the center, that way you can disconnect it or reconnect it. Here's my mess at the end of today. Bunch of wires and little heat shrink, old plugs that had exposed wires on them, so I went ahead and put a new plug. That one right there was actually the pressure switch on the VTEC solenoid, but I rewired the pressure switch, solenoid, knock sensor, those are set. Found these wire hanging here. This is a weird connector. This doesn't belong on this wiring harness. You can see they connected it. I don't know if these are the wiring for the idle air control valve. I'm gonna have to double check the colors. I don't think it is. It just doesn't seem like it's long enough, but then again it is cut, so maybe they I really don't know what they were doing actually. I'm gonna figure that out. Didn't get a chance to finish that today, and then I'm gonna work on the fan wiring, see if I can get that to work as it should again. Then I'll remove, like down here still has the AC wiring harness. I'll remove that wiring because it's no longer needed and just clean some of this up. Found a couple cut wires here, so that might be where the original fan connection goes. So I'll be out here on my next day off and I'm going to work on that and see if I can get it running with no check engine lights and appropriately.